living for the moment, now we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like you're chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. You know what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. To find the key.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixers cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the night, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the night, holding on for holding on for life, feeding the high, chasing the night, chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get a few. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the light, chasing the light, chasing the
We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. I want it, love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. In me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what to say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yes, what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like you're chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. You know what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixers cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the light, chasing the night, chasing the night, chasing the night, holding on for holding on for life, feeding the high, chasing the night, chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get off you. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the light, chasing the night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to RCI TV's presentation of the ICGT Sprint Championship Silver League. And we are fantastic today. We are here today for the third round here in this championship. We're going to be at Kyalami today. Cannot wait to see how this unfolds. Got an interesting championship coming at you live here today. Points are tight. We'll see those after qualifying, but I am Jesse Lee, and I am here joined by the fabulous Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, everybody at home. How are we all doing? Thank you for joining us, and I'm glad to be back after an unforeseen issue prevented me from being here for Spa-Francorchamps. So good to be back. Been a month since I've been part of the IGCT Silver Series, and Jesse, what have I missed? What did I miss last time out at the beautiful Spa?
Well, I can tell you it was an amazing race that we had at Spa, and as you would imagine, came down to the final few laps to decide us a winner. All things considered, it was a great race. Had very few incidents too, Paul, I have to say. The stewards, which are again with us today, live stewards indeed, didn't really have much to do. And today, I reckon that will be all different.
Well, it's good to hear that the behaviour at the first round at Laguna Seca, I think we commented actually on broadcast, was really good from the drivers. And we've seen great quality driving all through the series. I mean, I'm sure people at home can see the timing boards from free practice. 1.5 seconds covering the top 20. And Kyalami is a decent sized track, 2.85 miles in length. So that is a really tight grid. Kyalami is probably... Oh, it's raining.
Oh,
There is
no,
rain in
here we go.
qualification. Let's throw away everything we were going to suggest and predict and put
Oh,
an entirely
dear.
new kettle of fish open. Rain in the South Africa, which is unusual, but that'll be interesting, won't it?
Well, my notebook, ladies and gentlemen, has just went aflame, and I have thrown that away because it's going to be completely useless here today. 15 minutes qualifying for the Silver Championship here, third round, ICGT Sprint Champ. And as Mr. Paul Jeffrey from Race Department has just told you, it is raining. You can see that it is going to rain all the way through qualifying. Track is greasy. It's warm, 25 degrees C, track temp 20 ambient. Got a little bit of a 3-kilometer breeze going on here. Not a whole lot in that respect. The biggest thing here, Paul, isn't going to be the rain necessarily. It's going to be the greasy track, I think.
Yeah, and by the looks of it, the rain has just started to fall in this session, so we're getting no spray kicking up off the back of these these wet tyres or slicks. I'm not sure what the choice would be in these conditions. So for the drivers, absolutely key. Get out there as early as you possibly can while theoretically the circuit's in its best condition. Put a little bit more fuel in. This is not the kind of conditions to go out, do a charging lap, come back in again. You're going to want to be out there almost for the duration of the session, trying to find, like Jenson Button in Formula One used to say, be on the right tyres, the right part of the racetrack at the right time. And the only way in wet conditions, don't predict what may or may not happen. Get out there, churn the laps, wait for the moment when it's optimal to go for your time. We can still see a dry line, Jesse, on the circuit. That will be diminishing rapidly as the clock ticks by. Yes, there are 23 cars that are going round that will be lifting some of that surface water, but now is the time to get out there, get your lap set, get a banker up on the boards, because we've seen this, Jesse, many times in different series. You mess up qualifying, you're in the middle of the field. The middle of the field is where the danger happens. Anything could go on then at the course of the race, and this is a short championship. You have a bad round or you have a bad race, you're on the back foot immediately.
Yeah, easy for Jenson Button to say that, though, Paul. He is, of course, a Formula One world champion, and you would expect him to be able to do that. These are silver drivers. These are the what I would refer to as the everyday fast boys, is I think what I refer to them as typically. These are really fast guys, but they're not. They don't have little green antennas sticking out of their heads. Is what the determination I make. But the greasy track is going to be the limiting factor. We talked about a little bit about the tire choice. Every single one of these drivers with a greasy track and the rain coming down, no spray, probably going to be out here on softs. But I think that was an interesting observation you made there, Mr. Jeffrey, about staying out there as long as possible. And I think that might actually be the key. And I think because they've already made it a lap or so at this point and nobody looks like they're coming in, I think they may be adhering to that piece of advice. Certainly can see the difference in the tarmac here. There are some darker spots. I suspect that's going to be the wetter part of the tarmac, and racing line clearly there, as Mr. Paul Jeffrey pointed out. And I suspect that we're going to see some relatively quick times. I don't know if they're going to be anywhere near what we were seeing in the dry practice, but I can guarantee you every single one of these drivers right here on the track right now is saying, please just let it be dry for the race.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the key. Qualifying's one thing. The official sessions that we've held for this round have all been held in dry conditions. So unless the drivers are ultra prepared and they've done some offline practice in the rain, and of course, rain in ACC, just like rain in real life, comes in very many different shapes and sizes, from light spit on a dry circuit in hot conditions through to tropical thunderstorm and aquaplaning everywhere. So even if you practiced offline in the wet stuff, it's incredibly difficult. National Lottery odds of winning difficult to mimic the exact conditions that we're seeing now. So highly likely the majority of these drivers have either practiced in some level of wet that's not a one-to-one correlation of what they're dealing with at this moment in time, or have just not driven wet conditions on this track in these cars in this level of competition before. So it's an entirely new experience for him as Krausen comes down pit road in the Aston Martin. So this is maybe an opportunity for some of those drivers that wouldn't have expected to be at the absolute sharp end to get a good early result in qualification and put themselves in the prime seat for the race. It's a little bit, it's almost akin to rallying at the moment, where it's not the controlled scenario of circuit racing where you pound around for thousands of laps, you work out everything to millimeter precision and you get your consistency there. In wet conditions, in variable wet conditions that have come left field like these have, it's reaction. It's who's going to react best, who's going to keep a calm head, who's got everything geared up towards how they want it to be for maximum performance. And one man that very much does is Anthony Raphael, currently provisional pole position by 7/10 of a second from Ulrich. So that's a great banker lap in the Porsche.
That's absolutely amazing stuff. Raphael going 44.6 there. That absolutely blisters Ulrich, who was really close on his heels before that, but has in fact dropped back quite a bit with that lap. He actually does improve, Ulrich does, but it isn't anywhere near the 117 Porsche's lap, as we're going to watch Marco Ripper. That's your championship leader. He's went 2 for 2 so far in this series. He can do no better than a 45.519. That's still more than 4/10 back of our current leader, Raphael, in the 117 Porsche. So what can anyone do to take that Porsche off the top step? Still got about half of qualifying left here to go, and as many bullets in the gun as you might expect. Stefan Zero is, or Stefan Zero. I always mess his name up, and I do apologize. He's never got on to me once about it, so I do appreciate that. But Zero goes to second place, 3/10 down. Still, Raphael looks sort of untouchable, and here is Tobias Geider now. He's going to come around the last corner here. Let's see what he has currently in 10th place, a 2.5 down. Certainly he will improve. How much, we shall find out. He improves to 6th place. He's going to be 6/10 off the pace. Nobody quite able to take it to the leader right now. Some cars, it must be said, going against Mr. Paul Jeffrey's advice. They do come in and reset. Maybe they missed the setup a little bit for this weather pattern, and they have had to come in and have to dial it in or dial it out in some cases to get it back to sort of where they're sort of comfortable. Hard to be comfortable on a greasy track, must be said. Sergio Sardi is going to come around the last corner with a couple people in tow as well. We'll see exactly where he lines up. He was 14th initially. He goes all the way to the top 10. Paul, I think these laps are still going to continue to fall. I don't think a 44.6 is going to be enough to get this pole.
No, I think you're right. I do think the lap times are going to fall, and it's interesting that we seem to be having a bit of a split strategy from some of the drivers. So we've seen the man that we're looking at now getting sideways, Stefan Zero, appears to have been down pit road. So he went for a light fuel load to start with, gone down pit road, now he's reconditioned his tyres and on a push lap. But Raphael on pole position is still out on the circuit. Now in these conditions, track temperatures dropped to 25 degrees. The session started at 26. It's going to take a lap or two to get the optimal temperature in the tyres. Wet conditions, cold tyres equals a slidey time. So you want some heat on the rubber. And Marco Ripper, another one that was provisionally third, has now dropped to 5th position. Also came in for either a tweak on setup or just a fresh set of boots and some more fuel. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that works out for those drivers. It's difficult to judge from the pictures that we're looking at exactly how heavy or light this rainfall is by comparison to the start of the session, but drivers are going faster. We are getting some improved times. Raphael has done an incredible job to get a 44.679 as Krausen now brings it to within 1,000th of a second.
Wow.
So Krausen and the Aston Martin, who we saw running down pit road very, very early in this session, has just gone P2, demoting Stefan Zero to the second row of the grid. And our original third place man It's now dropped all the way down. I'm just looking for him. Where's he gone? Mark Ripper, 7th position. So he'll be looking. Michael Wagner now jumps to 3rd. Times are dropping. You were right, Jesse.
Yeah, I suspect what's going on here is obviously the dryer line has taken in some rubber in some respect, or either the tires are getting hotter or the track is getting hotter in those sections that they're running, and that's helping the times come down, because certainly some of those guys like Van Krausen, they did come to pit road. They were in pit road, and that was not the fact that they had stayed out. But then again, you've got some other drivers who have indeed stayed out, like you advised, and they've also mingled into the top 3 or so. Wagner now in 3rd, just a half of a tenth away from the lead. And Rafael, who did bring his car down pit road, he's had to go back out because he's just saw that time that Van Krausen's run and realized, I'm not safe anymore. And Wagner not too far behind either. And not even Schumacher back in 4th really is that far away. And all of these guys, all 23 of them so far, we have had a few sign-outs, it must be said, but 23 strong here today, and they're all really close together. You have to go all the way back to 15th before you find a driver that's not within a second of our leader. A second, just to let you know how long that is exactly that long. That pause that I had there, that was about a second. It is absolutely nothing. 3.5 minutes thereabout left in qualifying, just long enough to get one more good lap in there. So we're going to see Martin Schumacher come back across the line. We'll see what he does. Does he improve from his 44.7? Oh my goodness, yes he does. Van Krausen goes to the provisional pole, 44.3. Schumacher dead ties him.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. 7 thousandths of a second covering the top 3. And while you were talking, Rafael's gone from being an incredibly quick driver on provisional pole to 4th. So the lap times are dropping on this circuit. Now it's the key. You want to be on track. You want the tyres to be warm. You want to be in the zone. You've laid your banker lap down. Now you can start taking a chance. Now you can start taking a risk. Martin Ulrich, we've just seen there running a little bit wide, locking his outside front tyre, and he's got some traffic. He's got the, shall we say, dramatically painted Ferrari ahead of him. So Ulrich is going to have plenty of time to get another lap in. Has he got enough fuel? Has he got enough tyre life left? That's going to be the big question. And now running wide, losing a couple of tenths a second on the rumble strip. They'll be getting wet as well, so they'll give up even less grip than they have done previously. But as we come into Crowthorne now, Ulrich, the Ferrari ahead's cleared, which is good news. Run down pit road. Martin Ulrich going for the shortest run to the line. 3rd position despite a scruffy lap. That shows how much lap time is this circuit giving up at the moment. That was not a clean lap from Ulrich, but it was 3rd, 7 thousandths off. Mark Whitford got a good tow from the Porsche ahead of him. Can he improve on his current 4th place? Yes, he can. 2.5 tenths of a second in provisional pole position.
Absolutely amazing stuff by Mark Whitford, also known as Fez Fox. Lovely to see him put in such a amazing lap following Wagner. Wagner's going to go to 2nd. We've got several Marks, several Wagners, and it all sort of runs together sometimes, and if I at some point get them confused, you will understand. But Michael Wagner goes all the way to 2nd place. And if it wouldn't have been for that 44.1 of Whitford, we would have had 4 out of the top 5 drivers within, what was it, about a tenth and a half. That would have been absolutely astonishing. We had a dead tie at the lead there for a second, but wow, what a lap from Whitford. And it's going to be what everyone can do in this final minute. I'm not too comfortable if I'm him at this point.
No, not at all. It's last man across the line almost. Last man across the line should theoretically have the best track conditions. We've seen there's plenty of lap time this circuit's giving up as we're looking at Martin Ulrich again. Last lap, very, very scruffy as it gets completely sideways. Martin Ulrich, good catch there. Lap time abandoned and actually jumping down pit road. So obviously he's short on gas, which is a shame because Ulrich is massively vulnerable now. Currently the outside of the 3rd row, Ulrich is likely to drop significantly before the session ends. And this is a driver incredibly quick in FP1, 2nd position, despite a a difficult-looking Honda NSX underneath him. So Daniel Wurzberger looking to improve. This will be his final lap. Currently in 5th position, 2.79, so 0.279 away from the provisional pole. We're going to stick with Wurzberger to the end of the lap, I think, Jesse. And can Daniel pull one out of the bag and keep his championship hopes alive?
I don't know, but we're about to find out. We were commenting before we went live. That was the one car that we targeted because it does look a bit of a handful going around this track, but he can certainly drive it incredibly quickly. We're going to see how quickly here does he improve as he comes across the line down to 5th. Yes, he does. First one across the line. 43.7 obliterates Whitford's time. 0.3 to the good for Mr. Wurzberger. What an amazing lap that he put in. As Mr. Paul Jeffrey commented, was second in free practice before this, but has absolutely blitzed that lap. Something about that Honda agreed with these conditions.
It did, and now we're looking at Van Krausen, currently in 4th position, 0.6 of a second away from pole position. We saw him miss an apex earlier. He's got a Lamborghini ahead of him that will be causing a bit of a distraction, making the car slightly more difficult to get turned into these many complex corners at Kyalami. As he runs wide, loses the car. Oh, and that's a sad end. He'll need to get that off the racetrack very, very quickly to avoid causing delay for those behind. And that's bad news for Verde there. Marcus Verde, currently 8th position, will be compromised into the final corner on the line. Can he improve his lap time? 8th position. No, he does not. He stays in 8th as we see a Lexus wrecked thrown across the circuit as well. And wow, that one pretty intense.
Stefan, that was Stefan Zero who crashed across the line there. Very, very strange incident there as well. But what an amazing qualifying session. And it would appear, Mr. Paul Jeffrey, and I'm going to step outside our box here, that it is going to be a cloudy race, but for the first 30 minutes, no chance of rain at present. But got to give it to Wurzberger there. Absolutely fantastic lap. Blitz the field. But what about Mark Whitford? He's going to start second. This could be a good race for him. And even more importantly, our championship leader, 2-time winner. He nobody's had an answer for him. Mr. Ripper, he's down in 12th.
Yeah, and that, for us viewers and us commentators, is absolute gold dust. Ripper has been on form all season. We saw him very competitive in practice as well. And just like we said at the top of the show, a little bit of the wet stuff gets sprinkled down. It's opportunity time for people that wouldn't necessarily be as far at the front of the field. Wurzberger, that we've seen on pole position, arguably is one of the pre-race front runners, so we expected him to be that high. The car doesn't look comfortable underneath him, but he's put it on pole position. Whitford, fabulous performance as well. This is a beautiful time for these drivers to make hay while the theoretically sun shines, although not literally in this case. And Ripper's got it all to do. He's in the danger zone. 12th position. Stefan Zero ahead of him, another incredibly fast driver. Be very interested to see the Lexus and the BMW, how fast and more importantly, how cleanly they can make their way through the field. And Schumacher as well. That's a driver I recall from Laguna Seca, round 1, the last race I commented on. Had a great drive, but ran into problems. So I'm interested to see if Schumacher can get a little bit of redemption so far. I think it's currently 6th in the standings or 7th in the standings, so needs to make a few points up.
Well, for more on what Paul is talking about and help all of you at home get the clearer picture of exactly what we're going on about and why we're so excited for the race, here are your championship standings after 2 of the 5 rounds. Marco Ripper leading the championship in his number 35 BMW M6, 119 points. He's won both races so far. Absolutely dominant. Starts 12th today, however, if I'm not mistaken, the deepest in the field that he's started so far. Stefan Zero, who is driving the 42 Lexus, has 98 points and is his closest challenger. He splits the pole duties with Ripper so far. Of course, we'll add Wurzberger to that list. 3rd place, Martin Ulrich in his number 41 Lexuses. So 2 Lexuses sort of hanging out together on the podium, 92 points for him. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Michael Wagner in his number 18 Porsche, 75 points. Mark Whitford, who looked to be on pole here for quite some time, is actually going to be fifth in this championship, just 1 point behind Wagner for fourth in fifth place. Sixth place is going to be Martin Schumacher, 73 points in that number 32 BMW. Seventh place, Marcus Raid is going to have 72 points in his number 16 Aston Martin. Mr. Vadica in his 46 Ferrari is going to have 66 points. And, of course, Mollier in ninth in his AMR V8 Vantage. Number 96 is going to have 58 points. And 1 point behind him is going to be Rabes in his number 88 V8 Vantage. Going to have 57. That's your top 10. And, folks, if you're wondering where our pole sitter is, Daniel Wurzberger, he is back in 15th in this championship in his number 4 Honda. He has 46 points. So as Mr. Paul Jeffrey said, he stands to gain a ton. I don't know what the preferred strategy here today is going to be. I just know for Marco Ripper, it's going to be go fast.
Yeah, go fast, hit nothing. Get to the flag 60 minutes later. Have a shower, sit down, have a nice bit of lubricating beverage, and reminisce on what will either be an incredibly good drive or an incredibly disappointing evening's racing. Because for Ripper, a driver of his caliber, a driver of his aggressive nature, in a field so competitive, there's two outcomes. He will have a stormer and score big, or a nightmare and get involved. There will be no middle ground.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be ultimately important for the man who's won twice in 2 attempts to not be involved in anything today, and also for Stefan Zero as well, back in 10th place. Ultimately important that he also stays out of trouble as he attempts to gain positions, and that's going to be the tale of the tape today. Is you have to stay out of trouble because this is going to be a dry race, at least for the first 30 minutes, completely clouded over, no sun on the racetrack here at Kyalami today. 26-degree track temperature, that stubborn 3-kilometer breeze. Track is going to be optimum though, so it's basically a reset of practice where we saw some of the other gentlemen being incredibly quick here. Wurzberger, doesn't really matter. He's been quick in all conditions. But I think the tale of the tape today is going to be that. It's going to be comers and goers. Not necessarily how fast you were in qualifying, but how fast you are in the race that matters now. And I think it's going to be pretty much a split. I think some of these guys are going to fall back and some are going to come to the front. For those that are chasing points, it's going to be difficult. What's that, Mr. Paul?
Just to interrupt you, apologies. I don't know whether it's one of the many exciting foibles of a Assetto Corsa live competition only live timing, but I think Schumacher and Ripper have had a disconnect and have rejoined from pit road. Our timing stack on the left-hand side of the screen, for those of you with eagle eyes, will see Schumacher, Ripper and Guida, I believe it's pronounced, in 21st, 22nd and 23rd with a little white P next to them, which means pit lane.
Oh no! So what I think has happened here is there's been a little incident where they've hit drive.
Oh,
I think there's been yes, and they've been reset to pit road. I think they'll have to start from pit road, Paul.
So that's suddenly gone from being exactly what I said at the beginning of the show, either a really, really good evening for Marco Ripper or a living nightmare. And his job has just got incredibly more difficult than it ever would have anticipated at the end of practice. 22nd on the grid. He will be fuming inside his virtual cockpit now, and this is going to be the mark of a champion or not. A lot of people are fast drivers, a lot of people are good racers, but keeping your head in all circumstances, scoring big when the cards fall against you. Ripper came into this race weekend, all the cards in his hand. Now he's got a steaming pile of feces, and it's what can he do about that? Can he turn that into a beef stew, or will it continue to be a smelly mess on his lap? We will find out in 60 minutes time, but Ripper, keep your eyes on him, folks. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I don't know. The only steaming pile I know is that there's going to be steam coming out of that helmet, completely out of his control, completely out of our control here at RCI. It's not something that we do here that has caused that. That is the price of sim racing, I think, is the way that I'm going to put that. It is a brutal mistress sometimes, and today it has proven quite foul for those three drivers. We've seen that on several races And of course, it is something that they're always working on. ACC is a passion project for sure. But for them, all they care about now is damage control. And if you are a championship leader like Ripper is, today could be a defining day if you win or lose this championship. Either way, we've got Wurzburger out front. He is leading, and he will have the outside lane, and the green flag has dropped. The lights have gone out, and we are going racing in South Africa. Wurzburger goes down into turn one. Not going to get much of a challenge from Mr. Whitford there down into turn one. Whitford actually is going to pull even after he blocks the inside lane side by side into two, as here they come up the hill, and he's going to just clear. Whitford Whitford gets back on him. Whitford side by side, Wurzburger and Whitford, Wagner and Kraus behind them, 2 by 2 as they go onto the back straightaway. Anything is possible. Looks like Whitford's going to try to go around the outside, can't quite get it. Actually, finally gets back in line right in front of Wagner.
What an amazing bit of driving from the front two. Too wide for 3 or 4 corners. There's not quite enough horsepower in that Aston Martin as Whitford runs a little bit wide onto the AstroTurf, manages to keep the car nicely together to continue his defence from Wagner behind. Van Krausen, 4th position, now gets sideways, manages to gather the car up. Evasive action from Ulrich in the Lexus behind, runs wide. That should open the door for Mollier potentially as well, but great bit of driving to keep the car pointing broadly in the right direction for Van Krausen. He retains 4th position. Ulrich in the Lexus did manage to get back on the racetrack again in 5th place, but that has opened a gap up. The top 3 are starting to gap the rest of the shenanigans further afield, and the man that's under pressure is Mark Whitford. Whitford again running a little bit wide, showing the door to Wagner. Wagner's had a great start, managed to vault himself up from 6th or 7th position, can't quite remember now, as we head into Crowthorne for the very first time in what has been a storming opening lap. The drivers totally forgetting this is a 60-minute race and behaving as though it's a 5-lap dash to the flag. Fabulous stuff.
I'm actually really amazed that Whitford was able to hang on to 2nd place there. I actually froze halfway into that commentary of that first couple of corners, because I almost thought he had been jumped by somebody else, and I was trying to place him. Oh, and a bit of rough driving there. Van Krausen getting thrown sort of by Ulrich there off the track. Van Krausen not happy about it, flashing the lights at the Lexus in front of him, not happy with the way that he was deposed back to 5th position. But like it or not, that has happened. Took you wide, mate, and he took your position, and now the ball's in your court. What are you going to do about it? Van Krausen free falling down through the top 5 now in fear of being overtaken by Rofel, who is, by the way, the quickest man in practice earlier in the dry. Keep an eye on that red and white Porsche to come up through the field. Could very possibly be a player here today. Up front, Wurzburger has a 1-second lead on Whitford. Whitford is under pressure from Wagner. We're watching the Van Krausen-Rofel battle here. It's sort of stabilized at this time. Not a whole lot of incidents. A couple of moves to avoid incident, including one Lexus going off into the dirt, but other than that, no harm, no foul. And I gotta say, I was impressed with Whitford, the way that he was able to not only battle back to take 2nd back from Wagner, because he had lost it at one point, but also he got beside Wurzburger at some point.
He did, as we see the Aston Martin going for a Microsoft Flight Simulator moment there, catching the curb of death at Barbecue, I think that was. Van Krausen got away with that one quite lightly, actually, considering some of the dramas that we've seen at that corner. Takes off, runs wide, loses a couple of positions, and is now under pressure from Mollier behind in the sister Aston Martin. Meanwhile, championship leader watch, Stefan Zero is in pit road, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to Stefan Zero in pit road, plummeting down the order, and Marco Ripper up to 16th. Ripper, remember, started from pit road, so started 23rd. Already made his way up to 16th, shadowed by Schumacher a little further behind. There you see Marco Ripper on screen now in the Dayglow and Black number 35 BMW. Great looking race car, very large for a GT3 machine, but in the hands of Marco Ripper at the very least, doing a fabulous job this season. But Ripper's got a 4.5 second deficit to the rest of the field. We don't have full course cautions here, so we can't rely on a safety car. So a lot to do. Good start. A lot to do for Ripper to find himself with a decent haul of points. Meanwhile, Stefan Zero seems to be out of pit road in 21st. Not quite sure what happened there. It's way too early, 5 minutes into the race, to be making a scheduled stop. The weather's staying dry, so he doesn't need to jump on a different set of boots. We're riding on board now with Mollier, who's looking at the back of the British Racing Green Aston Martin that went skyward only a lap ago. So Mollier thinking, he's a man who's under pressure. Let's put a little bit of that pressure on him, see if we can make him repeat the mistake, staying well clear of the curb of death this time. But Mollier, 2 Aston Martins, they're a beautiful sight for anybody who likes cars or Aston Martins. My favourite machine for sure, going hammer and tongue in the first 6 minutes of an hour-long race.
Yeah, such a beautiful car, and that is very clearly the race driver mentality. Very well put there, Paul. That is exactly the way it is. Mollier knows that Van Krausen's rattled right now. He's been off track a few times, and that's exactly what you do as a racing driver. You get your car in every mirror that car in front of you has and try to force that mistake again, because if you've seen them do it once, they're liable to do it again. The only explanation, by the way, I have for Zero getting in early is he's actually been in several of the races I've commentated on. He's been the beneficiary of getting that mandatory pit stop out of the way immediately. I've seen him get podiums that way, and I think it's a strategy he trusts. And I think that's what you're seeing there is you have to forgive us. The action was so immense at the start of the race. We didn't even mention everyone here has a mandatory pit stop. The mandatory pit stop is satisfied once you put some fuel in the car. Keep in mind, Paul, I said some. It doesn't have to be a lot. Could be as little as a single liter. But that satisfies the minimum pit stop requirement, and you have to do that before the race is over. Otherwise, you get a hefty time penalty. So everybody required to stop. Looks like Stefan Zero, as I should say. Like I said, I always get his name wrong. He came in immediately, and I have seen him do that before, and it's worked out. We're going to have to pay attention to that. And to the point for the championship leader. Wait a minute. Has the championship leader, has he disappeared off your timing sheet, Paul?
He has, and literally I was only looking at him seconds ago, so that's just happened. He was 15th. Last time I looked, that promotes Schumacher up to 15th position, but I think you're right, Jesse. I think we've lost Ripper, so he's gone from bad to terrible to absolutely horrendous for Ripper out of this race. And I don't believe you can rejoin, but if you can, even if you can rejoin, never going to score points from that position. So what a nightmare for Marco Ripper.
He is going to dislike this racetrack. I don't know how you could. I love this place, but this has turned into an absolute nightmare. This is the stuff that keeps you up at night as a racing driver. Now, Stefan Zero, who is second in the championship, looks to make up a boatload of points here if it wasn't for our fourth place driver in that number 41 Lexus, Ulrich. Ulrich stands to leave Kyalami as the championship leader now.
Wow. And this is exactly what we want. Not ideal, of course, for those competing. The amount of work and energy and effort and practice and training that goes into being competitive in a field like this is just mind-blowing to the average casual sim racer. So it's not ideal for those concerned. But as an audience, as people who are fans of a spirited competition, this is exactly what we needed for this championship. With all the greatest respect in the world to Marco Ripper, who's a fabulous driver, there was a danger that he was going to start running away from things. Just like Formula One and Lewis Hamilton dominated, it's great to see that level of skill at the front of the field, but also doesn't hurt too much if they retire and disappear a couple of times, just to keep the action spicy. And that's exactly what we've got. We've got Ulrich, who's in the high points paying positions, currently just outside of a rostrum finish. That's got a lot of racing left to do to see where Ulrich comes in. And as Jesse very astutely pointed out, Stefan Zero may be doing a strategic call, getting himself out of slower traffic, getting that tyre stop done early. 55 minutes is just about fine for a stint on these tyres without dropping pace too much. He's got a lot of natural speed in that Lexus. As a driver, he's a very, very quick driver, and maybe he fancies his chances in some clear air. Start putting those laps down now. Get some of that undercut benefit into his car, and then as he starts, as we've seen already, 16th already, we're starting to see cars ahead of him come down pit road. That's a free overtake. That's something he's not got to deal with. If he can clear the slower cars, and I use the word slower with great caution because the pace of the entire field is incredibly high, if he can clear some of the lower position cars quickly at the first time of asking without losing too much lap time, that's really, really, really curious to see how that pans out as we see the 27 Aston Martin. So that's Van Krausen, a man who's been in the thick of all the action so far this race, just put in an overtaking move on the jet black and gold Ferrari. So Van Krausen back up to 6th position in what's been something of a yo-yo event for him so far. That Aston Martin's going to be worn out at the end of this motor race, but Van Krausen currently 6th. And really, Tyson could do absolutely nothing about that overtaking manoeuvre. An expertly judged and executed pass.
I suspect that Van Krausen just needed to get a little temperature in his tires, do a little something to make that car come alive, because the pace that he was getting overtaken in the first 4 or 5 laps led me to believe that there was something wrong with the setup of that car. But that pass just put my mind at ease a little bit, that maybe his car just took a little longer to wind up than some of his competitors, because that was a very confident pass that he put on Thiesing right there. Just an update on the leaders. Wurzberger is leading this race, has led every lap. Mark Whitford did get the time under a second earlier, but since then it's gone out to nearly 2 seconds, I'm afraid. The gap between first and second. Wagner still in third, hanging in there, as we would say in America, hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit. Of course, our biscuits are a little bit different, but yeah, he's hanging in there. He is being annoying to Mr. Whitford, who wishes he would disappear a bit further behind him. 4th place is Ulrich. He's the man that stands to gain the most from all of this madness today, could come all the way to the championship lead. Of course, Stefan Zero is not about to let that happen idly. He has already come into pit road. He has set his strategy. All that being said, however, I still feel like pitting as late as possible is the right strategy, and I would typically stick with that sentiment, except I have seen Zero make this work. So, you know, fast drivers will be fast drivers. Now that I mentioned Whitford and Wagner, here's the pictures of Wagner chasing Whitford down. It was as high as 0.7 of a second, now back down to 5/6 right here. There's your 3 leaders, 4 of them actually, all in the same picture still. And what Paul Jeffrey, what you were saying earlier, I love that, you know, sometimes you need something to spice it up. I could put that more British if you like. We took this championship from a tikka masala to the full vindaloo.
Nice, nicely done, and that's something I'm sure you've kept in your back pocket, that sentence, for when the appropriate time to use it has been, and it could not be more appropriate. This has been a turn everything upside down on its head kind of event. And while we're seeing Michael Wagner still chasing down, basically painted to the back of Mark Whitford's Aston Martin, this is an absolute gift to the Lexus of Ulrich behind. Ulrich will see these two at this moment in time. I don't think Ulrich's quite got the overall pace of the front 3 drivers. That put my teeth in, Paul. The top 3 drivers. So Ulrich will want to see these two fighting. He'll want to see Whitford start addressing the car behind and defensive lines, slowing each other up. That will bring Ulrich into the fight of the competition. Wurzberger seems like he's got everything under control at this moment in time at the front of the field, as we're seeing Daniel right now, in 12th position, the number 73 Audi R8 getting overtaken by Martin Schumacher. So Schumacher again, a driver that had whatever difficulty it was at the beginning of the race that put them to the back of the grid, and Martin Schumacher recovering so far, great recovery drive actually so far, just outside the top 10 in the BMW, and that's the kind of image that Ripper's going to be looking at and crying to himself over at the moment, that Schumacher, who started far down the field just like he did, is already only just under 15 minutes of competition down. He's already flirting with the top 10, so bad start to the day for Schumacher, but still very much plenty of opportunity to score big and cement his championship position. Also, back on Stefan Zero watch, he's got the beautiful situation of 6 seconds clean air between him and the car ahead. No, 5 seconds clean air, sorry. Normally, as a driver, a 5-second gap to the car ahead would be a nightmare for you. But don't forget, Zero's done his pit stop. He's on fresh boots. What he needs to be able to cement that strategy and start to see some reward further down the line, he needs clean air to be able to maximise the ultimate pace of his Lexus, which is something he's very, very capable of doing. And a 5-second gap is a beautiful opportunity to get the hammer down and do 2 or 3 qualifying spec laps. Every time he can drive quickly and put a fast lap in, it's closing down the net gap to these cars in front when they stop. People like Mark Whitford, that we're looking at now, who's actually made a little bit of a gap to Wagner behind him, but people like Mark Whitford, who are fighting and losing time, that is closing him up over the field. As Jesse Ulrich with a 5-second penalty.
Yes, indeed. 5-second penalty for Ulrich. I'm unsure what that is for. If that is a steward's penalty, it hasn't been posted to us yet. Of course, it's applied first and then explained to us. We'll certainly have that whenever it is ready. Nope, still nothing in the box. Our steward's box is right beside ours, and we get little slips of paper by them whenever it occurs, so we can inform you guys. That certainly doesn't appear to be an ACC penalty, such as going over track limits too much. That certainly does appear to be a steward's penalty. Be interested to see what that's for, as my goodness, Wagner gets all of the curb and goes airborne with the back of his Porsche, undeterred, still looking at getting beside Mr. Whitford. And like you said before, Ulrich would have been looking for them to be battling it out so he could get closer. But with that 5-second penalty, that's like having a like a ball and chain around your ankle. That's no good. You definitely don't want that. But one thing's for sure, if you are Schumacher, who started on the pit road, this has ended up to be a pretty good day so far, despite the fact that you would probably be a bit further up the grid had that not happened. But all things considered, you get back to the top 10, you start feeling a little bit better about yourself. Certainly, and that's sort of where he is right now. He's getting to the point. This is also interesting, too, and what I wanted to mention about those BMWs while we're talking about Schumacher. This is the first time the conversation in this championship has not been dominated by how strong all the BMWs are at the front of the field. We didn't have any at the front of the field. Oh my goodness. Nervous moment for Wagner there. Nearly got into the back of Whitford. Properly caught him here. Nervous moment, but nothing doing there. Got on the brakes just in time. But yeah, this is the first time the rhetoric of the race has not been controlled by the BMWs at this point. Usually something happens to the BMWs that keeps them from winning. But they've sort of been by the by here so far as these two continue fighting. Speaking of these two continuing fighting, Neil Pimlott trying to actually being overtaken by Schumacher here. As speak of the devil, Schumacher trying to get that 10th spot back and does successfully down into turn 1. Top 10 again for the man that started on the pit road. Been quick all season to this point, it must be said. Hasn't had much to show for it though.
Yeah, great drive there from Martin Schumacher. Got a good run from the final turn. Big, long start-finish straight heading down into T1. And Schumacher just got enough horsepower to get around the outside of the Ferrari. Credit where credit's due to Pimlott. He realised that was a done deal and let it go. But Mark Whitford now is showing signs of serious pressure. Wagner has got bucket loads more pace in that Porsche. He keeps a tighter line through the left-hander, shows himself to the inside. Not got enough of an overlap in what is essentially a zero deceleration zone at this part of the racetrack. Looking to the outside, will he turn that into the inside on corner exit? Yes, he does. The Porsche can... It seems like the Porsche can turn in a lot stronger at this stage of the race than the Aston Martin, which begs the question, is Mark Whitford a little bit uncomfortable on this set of tyres in comparison to Wagner behind? Again, look at the corner exit of the Porsche. Michael Wagner a lot stronger out of the corner, a lot sharper on turning. We've not really seen where he stands in terms of braking capacity, but he's a little bit too far behind the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin punches a good hole through the air, makes it very difficult, even with the aid of a slipstream, to get up alongside. And And a track like Kyalami, overtaking is infinitely possible. Absolutely is possible to overtake here, but you've really got to get alongside in the braking zones to be sure of a safe pass. This section 1 of the racetracks, where the Porsche seems considerably stronger, shows himself to the inside, not really looking to overtake, but just looking to put Whitford under pressure, make Mark Whitford look in his mirrors rather than through his windshield, and that seems to be working a treat for Wagner at the moment. And while all this is happening, Ulrich, carrying a 5-second penalty behind, is starting slowly but surely to close that gap to second and third position ahead. We're riding on ball with Wagner now. Just look how aggressive he is with the steering on this car. He's got really good turning. He knows he's got really good turning as well. That's going to be a big advantage in this fight. And Wagner, got the car on the tippy toes at the moment. You can see the body language, especially from off-board camera. He's aggressive. He knows this is his time. He's got more pace at this stage in the race. The car ahead, Whitford is doing a great job of putting his Aston Martin in all the right spots to prevent, should I say, any overtaking opportunity. But Wagner, he needs to make something happen. He closes up into the final turn significantly. Can he get a good enough run onto the start-finish straight to challenge for an overtake into T1? Jesse, I'll hand over to you. This looks like his best opportunity so far.
Oh, but you're forgetting the most important thing of racing. They teach you this day one in drag racing. That V8 is going to beat that flat 6 every single time, and that is the most infuriating thing for Wagner right now. He's beating him, like you said, every corner, off of every corner, into every corner. Heck, he's beating him around the corner. The only problem is every corner is connected with a straight, and that V8 just laughs like a drain as it drives off. What he's going to have to do with that Porsche is stuff it up the inside like he's thinking about doing right now. Not close enough. Again, straightaway advantage Aston Martin. And that is the game that they're playing right here. He's going to have to get slightly aggressive here, I can imagine. And speaking of laughing, that's what Wurzburger's doing up front, tuned to a 4-second lead. The more these two fight, the more defensive Whitford has to get, the more aggressive Wagner has to get, the bigger the gap Wurzburger out front is going to have.
And the good thing for Daniel Wurzburger is this is opening up strategy options. He's now got the biggest gap he's had at any stage in this race. So Wurzburger now is starting to get into the realms of, do I want to stop a little bit earlier? Protect the tyres on my car. He's had I think it's fair to say the Honda is not out and out the fastest car in the field. So although things have looked relatively straightforward for Daniel Wurzburger, we saw him and spoke about it off air. The car is moving around underneath him an incredible amount. We saw him in practice coming to the end of a long stint test run, and the car was very unwieldy towards the end of that stint. So there may well be an option, although at the moment the lap times suggest not, that Daniel Wurzburger is starting to get into territory where there's an option to come in a little bit earlier, make use of fresh boots towards the end of the race and consolidate that gap. For me, as a driver, I would see this fight that's happening behind me. I would see the relative lack of pace of Whitford. Gamble that Wagner can't find a way past in the next 5 or 6 laps or so. And I would seriously think about coming in for a pit stop now, while these two are holding each other up, and charge on new tyres and try and make a net positive difference between now and when they have their pit stop. The downside to that is, you do that, the lap after Wagner gets past and starts nailing quick lap times, and suddenly your 4-second gap can turn into almost nothing, or you can get involved in traffic. And Jesse, that's why I love GT3 racing. That's why I love these semi-endurance type events, because it's not just get in the car, close your eyes and put your foot on the gas. There's an element of strategic thinking to be had.
Oh, Pimlott right there was getting really defensive on right there, causing Wright to go right off the track. Jake Boswell has the pictures for you in the replay. Yes, just no space on the outside. Wright tries to go around the outside of Pimlott. Pimlott covers him, and he has to hit the beach to keep from ramming into the back of him. But Jeffrey, you have sold me on pitting right now. I was not too sure about it, and then as another rally car, that's going to be, who's that? Is that that's Wagner? Wagner in the back. Something has happened here. Ulrich has ended up in third place. Wagner in the back of the shot there, going extremely wide. We saw him on the beach coming through Crocodile. Something untoward has happened, and Whitford is going to be afforded a 1 second gap back to Ulrich. Ulrich still holding that 5 second penalty. I actually have that. Easy for me to say, excuse me, I actually have that penalty. That penalty for the number 41 car of Ulrich, 5 seconds for pushing the 96 when rejoining, causing the car to lose positions. Also, the 101's been given a 15-second penalty. Unsafe rejoin causing a collision. That's, is that the 101? Is that our championship leader?
Well,
No.
all I can say is there's
No,
been
that's
so
Seretti.
much happening. Incredible here, Jesse, that as you've just said, things have turned on its head. So Wurzburger serenely carrying on at the front of the field, has no idea what's going on behind him. But now Whitford and Ulrich are our second and third place man. The two challenging Porsches have gone down pit road. There was a big time loss, I think, as you say there, for Wagner, who was at that stage of the race the faster of the two cars. It appeared in the fight for second position. We don't see it on our timing stack. It only goes down to 7th place at the moment, so I'm not quite sure if our race director could just pop up the full top 23 order. That'd be great. We can see where Wagner has come back out again on the track after his pit stop, and I'll be curious to see, yes, just ahead of Stefan Zero. So Zero's early pit stop strategy is starting to pay him back again. Zero a little bit behind Wagner, but of course he was lower down the running order at the early stage of the race, but that has worked really, really well. And Michael Wagner is in traffic. He's stuck behind the Audi of Wright that we saw avoiding action just a couple of laps ago. And in the distance, you can just see Stefan Zero's Lexus 5 seconds further down the road. So you were right, Jesse, an early pit stop. I had my doubts, but an early pit stop for Stefan Zero has worked wonders. Thank you very much.
I always doubt that early pit stop, but Stefan Zero exists merely to laugh in my face sometime, I swear. he makes that work so many times. It is absolutely incredible, but this is the thing. Wagner having his issues, going off, deciding that that was the time to duck down pit road, trying to save as much as he possibly could of the Delta, and he finds himself in that nightmare position, being right behind another car. I think they're going to be side by side. He's actually going to get the position here. Wagner is going to overtake Wright. Wright just sort of let him do that. He actually gave him the inside and everything. Must have decided that it wasn't worth his time to fight him, let him go, and that was sort of an early birthday present for Wagner right there. But like you said, our top 5 has turned on its head. Wurzburger's still out front, Whitford still in second, but look at third. We have Ulrich with that 5-second penalty. That's still good enough for third in the race, however, as Van Krausen is about 10 seconds, I should say, off of a podium spot. But Thiesing in 5th, Mollier 6th, and now Wagner, the top running driver who has pitted, he's down in 7th. But Zero strategy, like you said, is coming good. So that's fantastic that he's been able to do that. Zero has been making headway. In fact, Wright will be the next car he has to pass. He's still a little bit off of him, it must be said. But my goodness, I am surprised. We are not quite at the halfway mark of this race. No real threat of rain here. Track temp has gone up as well. It's 27 degrees now, track temperature, so it is heating up a bit. And the majority of the field is pitted. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it surprises me. For me as a driver, if I'm going to I'm not a fan of this pitting 2 minutes before the checkered flag. If you're going to put new boots on, you want an opportunity to be able to make use of those, as we've seen Remmers in the Aston Martin, they've been overtaken. Jerome Remmers in the Ferrari, the bright day-glow orange number 300 Ferrari, drops outside of the top 10, overtaken by the Aston Martin of Verde, I believe that was, jumps ahead of him. But yeah, I'm not a fan of pitting late because you're not being able to take advantage of the extra grip afforded by the new set of tyres. So I like to stop around 20 minutes before the checkered flag. So I'm surprised that the pit stop strategy has suggested everybody comes in a little bit earlier. But The curious thing is, our top runners, our top 6, obviously, because they've not been down pit road, are all non-stoppers, but the top 3, top 4, top 5 drivers are there on merit, having not come down pit road. So it's going to make for a fascinating second part of the race. Some drivers, Stefan Zero, prime example, are on old tyres at this stage in the race. He's got track position, but his tyres are worn comparative to somebody like Wagner, who's just come down pit road. Then we've got fast drivers like Versberger, Whitford, Ulrich, Van Krausen, who'll be coming down pit lane with much, much newer tyres than those around them. So track position may go to a Wagner or a Zero, but then you've got somebody who's certainly got no flies on them, like Mark Whitford or Ulrich, with brand new boots. Does track position trump new tyres, or vice versa? I'm not sure. We'll find out in 30 minutes and 11 seconds time. But another wonderful dynamic for us to concentrate on during the course of this race. And here's somebody who's been a bit stealthy so far. A black and gold Ferrari, always nice. Jonas Tasing, currently 5th position, started way down the running order. And it's great, Jesse, to see a Ferrari, beautiful car, but not so competitive. So it's great to see a Ferrari as high up the field as 5th position, even if it is due to the pit stop shuffle.
Yeah, you got to feel for Thiesing a little bit. They're sort of had a bout of bad luck the first 2 races, and it's not that they ran particularly bad. They've done well. They're doing well here today, top 5. It's just that their final finishing position hasn't reflected that, and they find themselves, I think, 22nd in this championship or something like that. But yeah, they ran fairly well. They definitely have the pace. I've certainly seen them out there in practice and qualifying, putting up nice lap times and nice numbers, but nothing to show for it today. Hoping all that changes as, oh my goodness, they get all of the dirt you can handle running up inside the top 5. So I do like a gold Ferrari, I will be honest. I actually just heard from the International Space Station that number 300 Ferrari pictured here. I don't know how Jake knew that I was going to talk about this vehicle, but this number 300 Ferrari, the International Space Station can see that from their orbit. So it's a fantastic day-glow color on that car. But yeah, Rimmers as well not had quite the best finishes, and not from lack of trying, as I believe that's going to be Schumacher behind him there in 13th place. He's going to be looking to overtake these 2 Ferraris and might get them both in successive corners if he plays his cards right, I should say. So we're going to go in-car. These pictures brought to you by Mr. Jake the Bosmeister Boswell. Didn't introduce him at the top of the show. Forgot all about that. My apologies, cameraman Jake. He's the one bringing you all of the action here today. We've got a stacked commentary team here as well. I'm joined again by Mr. Paul Jeffrey. And in the stewards box, we've got a whole host of fantastic stewards that help us bring you live stewarding and make sure the race is conducted fairly, led by Mr. Fabian Schmedberger today, and I'm getting all my notes from Mr. Nick Setnick. But halfway through the race, time to remind you here at RCI TV, why not go ahead and subscribe? We're here most days of the week bringing you fantastic ACC racing action like the race you're watching right here. So why not subscribe and hit that bell and catch us every time we go live here on YouTube. And as just a secondary reminder, we also have a Twitch, RCI Racing, where right now I believe the AM Championship is being broadcast by the lovely team of Ryan Gill and Mr. George Smith, the pride of South Africa. And right now it is an absolute treat if you are Mr. Martin Schumacher. You have dispatched those 2 Ferraris, and he made me look like I knew what I was talking about right there, Paul.
It's a great piece of driving from Martin Schumacher. As you were just saying your little piece there about subscribing, which would be great if you at home could do so. That would be much appreciated, and the whole team here at RCI would thoroughly appreciate that. But while you were saying that piece, Martin Schumacher, like a hot knife through butter, just made easy work of those 2 Ferraris. Fantastic piece of driving from Martin Schumacher, having perhaps not made the progress I would have expected since we last picked him up on camera. The pit stop shuffle has, of course, artificially knocked him a little bit further down the running order. I would expect him potentially to be ahead of such drivers as Wright and Mollier ahead of him. But Schumacher, very composed, very much like his namesake Michael Schumacher, a very thorough aggressive, but on the right side of aggressive, smooth, decisive overtaking manoeuvres on both Ferraris. And meanwhile, up at the head of the field, don't forget, Ulrich is carrying a 5-second time penalty, which, as things stand, will not affect his race position, and he dives down pit road. So the first of the front-running drivers, Ulrich, down pit lane for his mandatory pit stop. 25 3/4 of a minute left on the clock. So in and around the sort of lap time, the sort of stage of the race I like to stop at, Martin Ulrich was gradually closing down Mark Whitford ahead, decided enough is enough, and as close as I need to get to that Aston Martin, any further time out on this racetrack will start holding me up as the dirty air from the AMR V8 Vantage washes off the back of that beautifully liveried FF Racing Aston Martin ahead of him. So Ulrich down pit road. Now let's keep our beady eye on where he comes back out on the track. Will it be in front of the Porsche of Wagner that was just about ahead of him, I think, before all the shenanigans of the pit stop timing screen come? No, it doesn't. So Michael Wagner stays in 7th position. Ulrich rejoins in 6th position. He's got himself a sandwich box full of gap ahead. So that is fabulous news for Ulrich. Wagner on hot tyres. He's been out on these tyres for 4 or 5 laps. He's got his head in the game. He knows exactly what the car underneath him is capable of doing. Wagner needs to charge now to get up onto the back of Ulrich, who, of course, once the time penalty is applied, will be behind the Porsche come the checkered flag. Stefan Zero, another man that we spoke about earlier, stopped right at the very beginning of this race, is making something of a meal, trying to overtake right ahead of him, very close to the rear end. Jesse almost fell off his chair with excitement then when it looked like he was going to catch the back of the Audi, and while I was saying how difficult he's making it, Stefan Zero basically just opened the door, walked straight past him like nothing was doing. So caught out right a little bit. Maybe he was just napping for a moment, and Stefan Zero now in 8th position.
I feel like Wright just kind of let him do that, knowing how to pick his battles is, well, half the battle in racing. Zero falling off his chair for excitement. I was nearly falling off my chair. I was scared. That move was incredibly late there. It's like he realized he had 5 minutes to clock in for the day and just pulled hard right, made that pass with authority, and he's on his way. Top 8, and at the beginning of the day, we were talking about just how far Mr. Stefan Zero was probably going to fall through the championship ranks, but it doesn't seem to quite be that way, as these two are fighting for 17th place. It's going to be, who is that going to be? That's going to be Rofel, and I think that's going to be Pimlott, if I'm not very much mistaken. They're going to be fighting. Oh, they're going to touch. There's going to be a touch. Oh, and there's going to be a spin. Rofel has spun after contact with Pimlott. Pimlott's going to continue on. We're going to see the replay. They tried, I think this is Crocodile, and there's just not enough room to go too wide through there, and it's going to be a touch that sends Rofel sideways. Pimlott, no, that is indeed correct. Pimlott was the one that continued on. Rofel's the one that spun, and that is unfortunate contact, and that will likely be a hefty steward's inquiry.
Yeah, that was a messy from beginning to end from Rafael there, and a driver that had a lot of pace at the beginning of the day has just had the race has unwound to be something of a nightmare. Almost stone last now, 18th position, facing the wrong direction, chewed his tyres up. Absolute nightmare. And while that was happening, Van Krausen has come down pit road and finds himself behind Wagner and Stefan Zero. So Wagner up to 6th, Zero up to 7th, Mollier, Theising, potentially drivers that will come out of pit road behind those two. In fact, Ulrich now up to 5th position, Wagner 6th. So that's not worked out too well for Van Krausen. Dropping to 9th position. The Aston Martin, we've seen a little bit of strife at times during this race, but was running as high as 4th position at one point. Van Krausen down to 9th position, and Versberger just looking at race leader check for a minute. I doubt we'll see Daniel Versberger until he crosses the checkered flag in, or not checkered flag, but crosses the start-finish line in 21.5 minutes. Is now 6.6 seconds to the good. Whitford is somebody we need to keep an eye on. Not stopped yet, was in a strong fight with Wagner before whatever
Ooh.
happened. So that's going to be interesting to keep our eye on that one for when he crosses pit road, to see if he can come out and retain that second position in the Aston Martin. But Stefan Zero, good lad. That's a good strategy. Tyres will be probably firmly in the range of lightly used, should it be listed on eBay at the end of this race. Or doing a good job though, Stefan Zero. Lap time remain moderately competitive. 5.5 seconds and change behind Wagner in 6th position. It's not going to be a race winning pace, not a race winning strategy, but from his difficulties in qualifying, should still be a very good points haul. Don't forget, everybody, our championship leader is out of the race. So these are, in effect, 3 points for Stefan Zero. And the more he can score, the more exciting round 4 will be in just 2 weeks' time.
Just got to go back to Rofel for a second in that 117 Porsche. It's just been one nightmare after another for him. He's 28th in this championship. And if you're wondering, well, there's only 20 cars in the race, Jesse, how's that possible? It's because typically is quite a bit more. We had quite a good number of sign-outs for round 3 today. But even despite that, he's had pace. He's just not quite had the result. And I think that's the story for a lot of these drivers, really, is you have the pace, you just don't have the finishes. And I think today is going to be another one of those for the driver of the 117. Watching Thiesing, the last time we saw him about a lap ago, he was going off-road in a major way, and that has let Mollier get all the way to the back of him in a fight for what is the 3rd position right now. Probably will not be that way when we're all said and done. Of course, like Mr. Paul Jeffrey said, these positions are a little bit artificial, he said, and that is indeed the way it is. We've got 5 cars who have not, well, actually 6 cars who have not pitted yet, and that is sort of, you have to pick and mix where you think the drivers are. Thiesing just keeps going off the road ever so often. He's driving sort of dangerously, because if you hook that tire, you are absolutely gone. But we mentioned strategy earlier too, and I would like to make that point that these guys are only required to put a liter or 2 of fuel in the car. They're not required to do a tire stop. I know some of these drivers may as well do. Mollier going into pit road now. He's going to take that number 96 Aston Martin to pit road. Says that I am tired of following Thiesing around and eating his dust quite literally. And look, this is Daniel Wurzberger, our leader of the race, 6 to 7 seconds out in front of Whitford right now. But I agree with Paul Jeffrey. The man we should be watching for the pit stop and for the end of this race is going to be Mr. Mark Whitford. He has not pitted yet, neither has Thiesing, but most of the others have. We're going to see if Ulrich, Wagner, Zero, or any of the others will actually get by him, because it's so hard to gauge when you're out there by yourself what the actual pace of the car is going to be. So this could be pretty mega for him. He would definitely is going to not want to make a mistake in pit road or spend too long in it anyway. But Mark Whitford, the topic of discussion here, could be 2nd, could be 5th. We don't know.
And that's why strategy races like this, with mandatory pit stops, are absolutely wonderful. Anybody who's watching at home that's not familiar with how pit stops work in Assetto Corsa Competizione, just to pick up on what Jesse was saying about the fuel requirements, unless you make a fundamental change to your car, so something along the lines of changing brake pads or something like that, a stop is 30 seconds, whether you put fuel in or whether you put tyres on or not. So there's no time advantage on pit road from half fueling your car and then chucking the other half in at the stop. It's exactly the same. You can run your car lighter, of course, so there is some benefit. If your plan is to stop in or around the middle of the race, there's some benefit to starting on half tanks and filling it up to get to the end of the race. Of course there is. And you will absolutely want fresh tyres. Fresh tyres are the single biggest influence to your lap time that you can possibly put onto your car. A good setup's a good setup, but put some fresh softs on there, you will find seconds of lap time. So a lot of these drivers will be looking at a 30-second stop, plus the time it takes to get down pit road and get off of pit road again. But the real time saver for these drivers. The real differentiator between a good stop and a bad stop, as we're seeing guys just running a little bit wide there, is how fast your in and out lap are. The in lap, not so much of a problem because you're used to the car, you're comfortable with whatever balance you've got and had underneath you for the last 45 minutes or so. But the out lap, that's when you've got cold tyres, a little bit less grip than you're used to. The fuel load is the lightest it's been at any stage in the race. The balance of the car will have shifted significantly from the start of the race. Those of the drivers that can get off a pit road, get the maximum lap time out of the car immediately, could find a 1, 2, 3 second advantage over a rival that's a little bit hesitant or loses the car, or has to correct a slide, or is a little bit cautious at that first braking zone while they're feeling what it is they've got underneath them. And with a field as tightly packed as this, 1, 2, 3 seconds in a 60-minute race doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be the difference between a position on the podium or 5th place, and that's going to be very, very interesting to see how our 2nd place man, Mark Whitford, copes with that one. We've not seen much of Whitford this season towards the top of the field. I personally wondered if he'd maybe outperformed his car in qualifying due to the conditions, but he's showing himself very much a man deserving to be in the position he's at. But he's got Ulrich, 5-second penalty notwithstanding, and Wagner chomping at his bit. So let's see what happens when Whitford has been looking at now up the inside of a back marker. So that's not a, is that a back marker? Or is that Ulrich? That's Ulrich, Jesse.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I think, wait, how has that happened? As Whitford went off track, I would imagine that has to have happened. Oh, we're being told Whitford has pitted. That's exactly what it is. That's the battle that we're talking about right there. Who would be in front of who? Whitford has somehow managed the pace out of that car in the time between when Ulrich pitted and now when Whitford has pitted, and now they are nose to tail on the racetrack. That battle is all but resuming at this point between these two guys. Technically 2nd and 3rd. I know they say they're 3rd and 4th on the track, but these things promoted up to 2nd by virtue of not having pitted yet. So this will be your 2nd and 3rd, and Whitford does all but stays in front of the number 41 Lexus. Of course, that Lexus of Ulrich has that 5-second penalty that will be added on at the end of the race. So even if Whitford gives up that 2nd place, he won't be feeling too bad about it unless he gets more than 5 seconds out in front. But of course, we all know that's not how a racing driver thinks. A racing driver thinks that I have to beat them on the racetrack or it doesn't really matter. So that's what Mr. Whitford is going to be doing. And I'm proud to say that I do know Mark Whitford. And I know that he can be a tenacious person and really hard to pass, and some other expletives that I dare not say on this live broadcast. I've had to race him a few times. Lovely man, lovely guy to race with, hard to pass.
And that's exactly the kind of strategy he'll be needing now. Ulrich will be desperate to find a way past the Aston Martin. He knows he's got that 5-second penalty. Not only does he want to get past Whitford and try and gap him by over 5 seconds to secure 2nd, he's also a little bit concerned that Wagner is only 3.8 behind and Stefan Zero a further 2 seconds. So it's entirely possible that Stefan Zero will find themselves within that 5-second window, and Ulrich will go from fighting for a podium to fighting to stay in the top 6. Well, it'd be interesting. It looks like Ulrich at this moment in time at least has, as he makes a little change on the dashboard, probably a little bit of brake bias there or a little bit of traction control tweaking to get the car more to his liking. Ulrich will be desperate to find this overtaking manoeuvre. Whitford will be well aware that Ulrich's got a 5-second penalty. He'll see it on his on-screen telemetry display, assuming he has that up as Ulrich looks to the inside, tries to fill Whitford's mirrors. He knows he's got to make this happen now. As soon as Whitford starts to get more comfortable, he's got fresher tyres, potentially he could pull away. So this is Martin Ulrich's golden opportunity to find a way past. And it's not just one position, it's not just an overtake. This will dictate where Ulrich finishes overall in the race. Stay behind him, you're going to be outside the top 6, sunshine. Get past him, you might be on the rostrum. This is critical for Martin Ulrich, and just as much for Mark Whitford, who will be thanking his lucky stars. He's got some new boots on that Aston Martin.
I love that shot that Jake the Bosmeister Boswell gave us of the in-car of Ulrich, where he went into a corner. He gained a lot on Whitford, and then immediately made an adjustment to his car's electronics in some way. Of course, we don't know exactly what that was. Like Paul said, that could have been traction control, or that could have been brake bias. I imagine that was brake bias. He was turning it probably further to the front so he could brake a little later, maybe get up behind him. One thing that in-car showed me is that Lexus is turning a lot better than that Aston Martin is into the corner, but you have that same old problem. That V8 is pulling so much down the straightaway that he just can't keep it together. And look at Ulrich just digging every ounce of performance that he possibly can out of that car. He's hitting these curbs harder and going wider than Whitford is in his Aston, and it's sort of biting him right now. He's down to 7/10. He's lost a lot in the last lap simply because look how smooth Whitford is. It may not be the fastest, but he is just being incredibly smooth, and that what more could you ask from your driver? Just be smooth and time will come to you. You thrash your car around, one little mistake, you've lost nearly a second, and that's exactly what's happened to Ulrich here.
Yeah, Whitford knows he's got a job to do. He knows exactly what's required of him. He knows that position behind, it's not critical to keep it there. He's not got enough speed to get past Versberger even when Daniel comes down pit road, and he's got a healthy cushion to 5th place Michael Wagner in the Porsche. So all Whitford's got to do, and I say all like it's some kind of easy task, which it far from is, all Whitford has to do is stroke the car home, stay out of trouble, just get to the checkered flag and that second position. The Ferrari ahead of him is not in contention. He's going to be needing to go for a splash and dash towards the end of the race. So Whitford's, relatively speaking, got it straightforward. Just need to keep it clean, keep it sensible. Ulrich is showing the signs of the pressure. Ulrich is the man who knows he's got to make something happen, and he's seeing that. He's lost his great opportunity, which was the first 2 or 3 laps after Whitford came off pit road. That's where Whitford is the most destabilised, the most inconvenienced from having made a pit stop and not knowing fully what the car's capable of doing. Now that time's gone, Whitford, as you say, is doing the Alain Prost, smooth, conservative, driving as fast as he needs to drive, and ironically that's getting him propelled around the racetrack much quicker than the all arms and elbows, octopus style, Spider-Man style Ulrich behind, who's trying to extract everything he possibly can. And a man, Jesse, who's extracted everything he possibly can is Martin Schumacher, currently 9th position, but trying to gobble up the beautifully delivered Aston Martin ahead of him. So I'm determined to call him Michael Schumacher. I'm sure everybody falls for that one. Martin Schumacher in the BMW is now making a bit of a nuisance of himself, and his car, once again, we've seen this many a time, but the BMW looks much more like a vehicle that will behave as the driver wants it to than that Aston Martin ahead, and that's got an air of inevitable, I think, for Martin Schumacher to be making 8th position, his very own, within the last 8 minutes of this race.
Yeah, I can tell you that the number 17 Ferrari of Thiesing has in fact came in to pit road, and we go back to the battle for what has resumed for overall second place between the 86 and the 41, and Ulrich still getting back to the bumper of Whitford after a few laps where he fell off a little bit. He's right back on him now, driving a bit smoother, clearly has a little more pace. Ulrich does. 7.5 minutes and some change to play here at Kyalami, and everything to play for second place. Ulrich would like to get by him and try to get up the road a little bit, but time is fleeting. If he's going to do that, he has to do that now, because to get second, he will have to clear Whitford by 5 seconds. Of course, Ulrich given a 5-second penalty for pushing a car off track and causing them to lose position earlier. And meanwhile, we go back to Schumacher here. Schumacher trying to make this pass on Raid for 7th place. As Paul Jeffrey said, he felt that it was imminent, and it certainly looks like it now. Alarm bells going off in the number 16 Aston Martin. Lovely car though it is, not quite the right thing here. It's just a big off-track. BMW does make rally cars, Schumacher, but you are not in one of them.
And Schumacher does a little bit of grass cutting but doesn't lose too much time, and this is testament to how much pace is in that big BMW. Schumacher's gone off track. He's had to get the car off of non-drippy artificial surfaces and grass back on a tarmac, and yet he's still closing down the Aston Martin in front. So Schumacher's got the speed, but has he got what's required to find an overtake in the last, what I would say, three and a bit laps left to go? He's got a good run now on the Aston. We've seen the Aston is slippery in a straight line many a time, and for a humongous car, the BMW is also pretty darn quick in a straight line. He's got the slipstream. He'll be thinking about the inside. What's his tyres like? What's his brake lights in comparison? Schumacher shows a nose, just unsettles the Aston Martin if he can. Goes wide, takes the tighter line on corner entry for the better exit. Runs him a little bit too wide in the second part of the corner, which compromises this turn 3 left-hander. And Schumacher, both drivers going on to the lucky stuff, but neither driver losing much time. Schumacher shows himself to the outside. There's no doing on the outside, surely, for Martin Schumacher.
No way.
That is brave. Both cars rubbing door handles. The outside becomes the inside. Schumacher again goes back over, tries to put the scare on the Aston Martin, works wonders, and Martin Schumacher, driving like Michael Schumacher, drives absolutely beautifully. Ultra risky overtaking manoeuvre, but in the end, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you overtake at Kyalami in a GT3 race car. Martin Schumacher won from the textbooks, an overtake of the season, one could argue. Great piece of driving from both drivers. That could quite easily have gone foul, but instead, I stand up if I could be bothered and applaud. That was great driving from both drivers there. Martin Schumacher arrayed in 8th position, and that is another spot for the German-sounding name, but actually not German driver, Martin Schumacher.
My brain, my hair is lit ablaze. Did he just go the outside around sunset and make that pass work into the subsequent following corner? That was one of the most brave, amazing, heroic, and excellent things. A few touches, hey, Rubbin's racing in GT, in my opinion, and just an amazing thing that we just witnessed there. I can't believe, and I feel like I say this all the time, I can't do that. How can he do that? That was amazing stuff. Got all of the curb, got it done. We go back to Whitford and Ulrich, who might as well apply for a marriage license at the end of this one. They've been chained to the hip this entire race. I think it's safe to say that they will be quite sick of each other and not wanting to see each other for about a week after this. Or they could change position and you could get a different angle of the car, and that may help their relationship in that way. When it rains, it pours. If you're the driver of the 117 Porsche, Rofeld's been given a 5-second penalty for dive bomb overtake on another car. We talked earlier about his season not going the way that he would like it to, and today, unfortunately, it's going to be even worse. Pimlott just over 5 seconds adrift of him right now, so that would not necessarily affect that battle, but 3/10 for Pimlott would change that story entirely. This is the story, other than Wolfsberger, who is nearly 8 seconds adrift out in front in his number 4 Honda. He was fast in practice, he was fast in the wet qualifying, and he has been fast in the very dry race. The story for second between Whitford and Ulrich has also been incredible to watch, as Ulrich gives him the look down the inside, can't quite do it into turn 1, falls back in line, and at this point there's no way that I suspect, Mr. Paul Jeffrey, that Ulrich is going to get 5 seconds out in front. I think it's all for pride at this point.
Yep, it's all for pride. It's all to try and retain that podium spot. But the irony of all ironies, Ulrich is desperate to overtake to try and put some distance between himself and the chasing pack. But the more he fights and does not pass, the slower these two are going, and the more he's bringing the cars behind into play. Looking around the outside, there's no way you will find a spot through there. Going for the inside, this is not a corner to overtake on the line. Very quickly tightens off, and this ducking and weaving, putting Whitford into a defensive stance in the Aston Martin, all that is doing is opening the door for Wagner, and potentially even in the next couple of minutes Stefan Zero to start closing down to within 5 seconds of Ulrich ahead. So he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. He can't back off and allow Whitford to get the ultimate pace from the Aston Martin and hope to carry him along, because that will drop him too far back. But his fighting is not decisive enough in his overtake. He's not finding a way past. He's slowing the two of them down, and Wagner behind has gone from 6 seconds 3 laps ago to 3.6 seconds away. So that's going to demote Ulrich to 4th at the very best at this stage. And Stefan Zero needs to find himself a few more seconds to be in play as well for that 4th position at the end of the checkered flag. So this is not a great execution from Ulrich. He should have overtaken. Oh, as he goes down the inside, very late on the brakes, gets the rear end locked. That will be part of the adjustment to the brake bias that we saw earlier. Get it front loaded so you can get the car stopped. But obviously, if you get on the back, you can pivot the car on the brake. And we saw the back end, the back axle lock up, which suggests brake bias is set a little bit rearward on the Lexus. Ulrich did a great job, realised that overtaking manoeuvre, he had to go for it, but realised it wouldn't be enough to get past, keeps the car on the lock stop, a little bit of opposite lock, manages to avoid tapping the rear quarter of the Aston ahead, and that was as close as you can get to touching in these COVID-19 times without breaking the law. So Martin Ulrich, great piece of driving there, gone from a eyes closed, hope for the best, could have been a disaster, to just wipe the sweat off your brow and change your underwear when you finish the race. Great fun.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. I think Ulrich's going to get one more shot at this. If I was him, I'd be very easy with it. I wouldn't want to take Whitford out. Whitford's easy to, or excuse me, it's difficult for Whitford to become angry. I've only ever seen him angry once, but I would be very careful about trying that overtake. As we go back to Mr. Daniel Wurzberger, for the first time in this series, we've had a driver lead flag to flag. It's going to be Daniel Wurzberger in the number 4 Honda, going to come across the line and win the race. Second place is going to be just by a hair. It's going to be Mr. Mark Whitford winning the race. Ulrich is going to finish 3rd, but will soon be demoted down to 4th place as these two drivers end up nose to tail. Coming to the line, Zero will be promoted. No, he will not be promoted. Wagner will be promoted to 3rd. Ulrich 4th. Zero 5th. Van Krausen is going to come across the line in 6th. Schumacher in 7th. Wade in 8th place. We're going all the way. Thiesing in 9th. And we're going to go all the way back to 12th. Nose to tail is Mollier and Ingman. Did talk about Ingman all day today. Where has he been? He's been stalking 12th place. Can't quite get it. Mollier 12th. Ingman 13th. Meanwhile, Vidicka and Geider finished 10th and 11th as the rest of the field continue to file through. Zero all the way up to 5th. That will be enough, I think, to keep him and put him in the championship lead.
What an absolute... I mean, I often say this at the end of any race that I've been part of the broadcasting team for, and I am inclined to err along the lines of a little bit too enthusiastic when it's not always warranted. But what a race. That was exceptional fun. Great driving throughout the field. Wurzberger, let's not underestimate the job he's done, Daniel Wurzberger. The Honda is not the quickest car in the field by any stretch of the imagination. And the times that we have seen it running, it looked like it was a challenging vehicle to drive. So to open a can of domination on the team, on the grid like that, fabulous piece of driving throughout the field. Jesse, I've absolutely, as I always do when commentating alongside you, sir, had a field day. It's been amazing fun today and such a phenomenal performance from everybody concerned.
Yeah, it was just a fantastic race, really. I mean, you had Wurzberger who set the tone early and went out there and was able to win it. Then what about Mark Whitford, who was under fire from the start of the green flag to the checkered flag flew? Absolute Iceman he turned out to be here today. Well-deserved second place. Third place could have went either way, in my opinion, but did not go the way of Mr. Ulrich after all. But lovely stuff from a lot of the drivers. And I think, despite the fact that Zero had a not so great start to the race, he, as far as I'm concerned, salvaged his day, 5th place, and I think finished well enough to take the lead of this championship in Ripper's absence. And what a fantastic race. Fantastic stuff always seems to happen when we come to South Africa. And I am absolutely pleased, as always, to be commentating here with Mr. Paul Jeffrey. You're welcome anytime in the booth. 2 weeks from now, we will be back. I'm not sure of the track exactly. I did not look at the schedule, but we will be back in 2 weeks to bring you more silver action, round 4 or 5 at that time. Thank you guys all for being with us today on RCI TV on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe and hit us with a like, and never miss a race here. Racing most days of the week now. We got a little bit of everything GT-wise here on ACC. For myself, Jake Boswell behind the cameras, and Paul Jeffrey here, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for the Silver Cup. Congratulations to Daniel Wolfsberger, winner of the Silver Cup race here at Kyalami.